in terms of the amendment to, well, in terms of removing the overlay in its entirety, that's completely against what the council said at the hearings.
On private land.
Yeah, these are big public hearings with a lot of investment in them from all of the submitters on all sides of this discussion and debate. So council will be doing a complete about turn on a big piece of work that it undertook at the hearings. So it would be a very unusual thing to do.
Not very consistent or reliable, your answer. Okay, second point, and Madam Chair, if I can just briefly speak. You know, I look at this, and I've probably only spoken on one other time, but I'm not sure about why the alternate is being proposed. And it would be useful to actually hear that. Because the way I look at this, I feel as strongly about this, it talks about the mana whenua, but it's actually me. This is about us. 900 years of history in this city, and us respecting all of it. We have been really strong about built colonial history. Well, I'm really strong about the whole history of this city. And we should be backing these guys totally to make sure that the whole history of this city is recognised. Now, a lot of that's not built anymore, it's gone. And boy, we are grieving about some of the stuff that's gone, like His Majesty's. But I wouldn't like to think that there's something else that's operating here aside from a pure desire for us to record the entire history of this city and show it respect. All of it. And in particular, the first residents of this place. So 3,600 sites, yes, it is something that is a little bit of an inconvenience as we go through this process, but we are the first United Council, and we need to be setting really clear values and principles about what we believe in. And we have done that through our commitment to history and cultural tradition. And cultural tradition is the whole of all of the cultures. So I cannot see any problem with us at all on the basis that that's what we all believe in sitting around this table, our 900 years of history and our need to preserve and protect it when we should. This does not compromise us or the integrity of the pulp or anything like that for us to take a little while longer at all. I think, and I'm absolutely advocating to you, we need to just maintain the integrity of this process and ensure that we get it done right. And the message from John, from an officer viewpoint, is a really clear one. What an absolute volte-face and about-face if we took any different position. So, councillors, to you, yourself, Madam Chair, I think we need to support the original recommendation, do the work, and then once we have made a better assessment, and of course it's not easy to assess, a lot of the stuff's buried. I remember some of the discussions we had going on in Manukau about Wahitapu, which is one of the reasons why you've got a significant number of sites there. There's history and some of it isn't as clear as it should be, and it takes a while and you've got archaeologists involved. Well, I enjoy the odd occasion watching history TV. And I watch how strongly the Brits maintain the history of all of Britain, back to the Romans and before Roman times, and how much they get into the archaeology. So for me, this is an absolute critical point of how we maintain the history of all this land and show respect to it, and all of the people who have been inhabitants. I'd support this underlying recommendation.
So the recommendation you're supporting, Mr Mayor, is Member Taipare?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's hang on, let's just get a bit of order. Everyone wants to have a say. So remember, we are now dealing with, despite the debate before, we're actually dealing with Councillor Quex's amendment first. So, speaking to the amendment, Councillor Quex, would you wish to speak to your amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I will. Look, I'm not asking that we remove all sites. I'm asking that we remove those sites on private land until they can be verified as being authentic, as actually being there. Yep. And I know one site that's still left on here, that has been significantly altered, and for all I know, it appears to me that it is no longer there. So there's still a lot of doubt about these sites, and until they're verified, that's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking that they be that they be removed from public. It's just that they be removed until they are verified. And just on private land, just on public land, not on private land. I'm asking private property owners to be protected. And this has no impact on sites of significance, which are totally different, and which I think that the Mayor's impassioned speech would be well reserved for those sites of significance, not necessarily the sites of value. Look, this all came about, to me this goes back to almost when I was on the Manukau City Council, and I got a call from a very distressed person who wanted to build a house on Broomfields Road, and as he was standing there, he said, somebody from council said, oh, this looks like it might have been a power site in the past. And with that, all of a sudden, they had people crawling all over the site. They had archaeologists looking at it. It cost him $73,000. And they found out nothing was on the site, no middens. What they thought were bones when they did it when they x-rayed it were actually some tree stumps. So there was actually nothing there at all, and yet it cost this landowner $73,000 to look at this site. Look, councillors, I hope that you can support this for the sake of robustness, for the sake of accuracy, and for the sake of evidence. I've got to say that we were assured when Roger Blakely was the planning officer here, and look, I still can't remember the original discussion about the 3,600 sites. It's a mystery to me, a mystery to most of us who were here at the time. We were all scratching our heads saying, well, where did this come from? And so there was no robustness with that process, that's for sure. And anyway, that was a mystery to us. It turned out that a lot of those sites were not couldn't be verified, had been either substantially removed, or we find out now were never there, or were not actually Maori sites. So look, I have a great deal of respect for those sites that are of true history. And I've got one just down the road from me, a site of great significance to Maori. And in case the Mayor doesn't realise it, I think it is a site of significance to everybody who lives in that area. You know, that's takes which iwi we're going to consult with. And there'll only be 2 or 3. Well, I've just had a news release here that Ngāti Whātua, when they wanted to develop some land, they themselves had to consult 7 different iwi. You know, that just doesn't make sense to me. And so there is clearly something going on here. There's something wrong. I just want to make sure that in the future people have their private property protected, that they don't get involved in the situation like this poor landowner out at Manukau charged $73,000 to find out that all there were on that property were tree stumps. So, councillors, I hope that you will support this for the sake of accuracy, for the sake of fairness, and for the sake of the reputation of this council.
Councillor Penrose.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I'll keep it brief. Councillor Crax has summed it up, in my view, quite nicely. Look, this is you're absolutely right, Mr Mayor. It's about heritage and protecting heritage. You made reference to England and so forth, and I often watch Braveheart and what was done back in the old days. and preserving heritage across the UK. Look, to me, this is about, and when what we're asking here is, as Councillor Quicks rightly said, is identifying those sites. Once we identify them, ring circle them, deal with them. But don't hold people to ransom. Don't, you know, we're all for getting Auckland moving and growing the city. But what I continue to hear all the time is a presumably a midden on a site or to some description. You know, this is what's going to process this. This is how it's going to have to take place. You're going to have to consult with, as Councillor Quacks has said, 6, 7, 9, 12, whatever, iwi. Then, you know, we don't know what the cost factor is there because, to be honest with you, the public out there don't understand the process. They don't understand it. They go and buy a particular property and bang, it's whacked on them. If they don't do a limb report on that particular site, they get nailed with it. This takes away the worry and the fear that's out there in the community. And, you know, there's no disrespect to iwi at all. It's just basically saying, identify those sites, ring circle them, let's move on with it. You know, it's just giving that people that absolute assurance that what is there and not what could be there.
Okay, yep, so we've had 2 speakers for. The next, I've got the next speaker is Brewer. Oh, sorry, I've got Webster, Brewer, Philippine. I've got a question from Councillor Wayne Walker and Councillor Fletcher. We just also need to remember, if both these fail, we still have the recommendation on our agenda, which is that where things can't be proven and aren't robust, that they be withdrawn whilst the work continues.
Can I make a point of order, Madam Chair?
Point of order, Councillor.
This resolution, if carried, cannot apply to the existing protected sites which are registered under the Auckland Regional Council Regional Policy Statement of 1999. No. That is a given.
Can we clarify that?
Whatever the intention is, that resolution cannot touch that.
Madam Chair, that's correct, but there are very few sites in that plan relative to the number of sites in the unitary plan.
60.
Yeah.
But,
and they're not
they're real ones. There may be only 60, but they are real ones.
Thank you. And I think just in defence of the process, we do need to say that the process, albeit may have seemed a bit confusing with the Unitary Plan Committee and the work that was done, this was based on archaeological mapping from all of the previous councils, including the Auckland Regional Council, so it certainly wasn't just dreamed up on the hoof.
Madam Chair, can I just clarify a
John.
point? All of the remaining sites that were agreed to in March have been visited by archaeologists. Not recently, but they've all been visited, and that's how we have the GPS coordinate. So in terms of the accurate mapping, and now we've done the desktop exercise of reading the documentation and behind it, so there's a lot of support in terms of the accuracy of the mapping of the remaining sites, and they have been visited by archaeologists in the past. Wasn't sure if that was clear before.
So let's go back to our list. I've got Councillor Webster.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I will be supporting this. And thank you very much, Councillor Quacks and Penrose, for putting in on private land. Because when I was going through the list, I saw an awful lot that were actually in regional parks. No problems with that. But as John so rightly said, a lot of these areas are in the rural area, and they have caused huge issues for both farmers and other people. The lady in South Head who actually had a resource consent to build her house, and then this overlay came on and she's had to have another resource consent because she had to go and get a cultural impact statement, which cost her a lot of money. This young couple, who are not going ahead to build their house in Waiwera, because they'd have to do a cultural impact statement when there is actually no issues on that land. Now, I could give you example after example after example. Farmers who are really worried about putting in a fence line because the fence line might be in this area. You know, not able to do the work that they're supposed to be doing. If it was in the city, if it was in Ōrākei, everybody would be jumping up and down. These people can't jump up and down because they don't have that many voices. So I really support this. I agree that we need to do more work. I'm supporting it because it's on private land and it says until such time that the sites and places have been accurately identified. So we're not talking about not doing any more work. We're actually talking about private land until that work is done. And obviously I also support B because I think that's a good idea as well. Thank you.